3, 2, 1, go. What's up? Patch 5.3 is coming out soon. There's a little podcast going to talk about the patch changes. We're going to start with Tom
5.13.
Kinch, the new champion. No, Gabe's already correcting me. All right, so Gabe, you want to correct me? Let's start with you. What do you think of what do you think of Tom Kinch's passive and acquired taste?
What is that? The acquired taste? Is that the stacks?
Yes, it's the
Is
one
it 3
where
stacks?
every auto attack applies a stack.
Yeah, 3 stacks. He interacts with them
Right. So like it.
differently. It says.
Yes, exactly. So like for instance, the Q, it's a slow. I think originally a little bit of damage, but
He stuns them.
right, he stuns him. His W, Tom Kinch can only devour enemy champions once he applied 3 stacks. But his movement speed is drastically reduced while the enemy champs, who suffer greatly reduced vision and can only see things immediately around the king, are in his belly. So, tell me a little bit about W. What do you think? How do you see it working?
I mean, the whole theory behind Tom Kench is like a armored personnel carrier kind of bit, right? So he's probably gonna be like, what's it? His ult's the mobility one, right? So it's probably gonna be like. It's probably going to be like remove threats from fights or remove like squishies out of danger.
Right.
It's just a repositioning tool, really.
Well, I think he's designed to be. I think he's like kind of being like framed to be a support, but I really think he's going to be more effective in the top lane. I mean,
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that.
I mean, his E is going to be massive. That gray health shield is
yeah.
going to be huge if he builds just flat health.
Let's move on to the E then. All damage taken Tom Kinch takes is turned into gray health. Once he leaves combat, the gray health falls off, healing for a portion of the amount. So basically, it just
like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is pretty.
He has like a passive Mundo ult going off all the time.
So like, I wonder, does he die like right away?
Like, can we just like chime in here?
Yeah, just chime in whenever. Like if you have something to add, chime in.
Because he's pretty strong. I think it's really strong for laning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if you're top lane, for example, or jungle, you don't have to back very often.
Right.
A lot of free
He
sustain.
heals you back a lot, and you can do giant shield.
Exactly. And look at the passives on E and R. The passive on R is his damage scales with maximum health, and his passive with E is, it's kind of survivability and damage, which that affect him and really only him. I don't see much synergy with a bot laner with those passives, but in top lane you can see where that sustain and that additional damage, that scaling on tankiness.
I see
What
him
about
being
his
much
lack
more
of engage
effective.
though in the late game though as a top lane tank?
You say what? He doesn't have engage?
I think his
mean-
passive could be pretty hard because he doesn't have a jump, engage.
He has no like dash to get in. He needs to apply 3 stacks before like being able to reposition enemies.
He's going to be more of a frontline utility tank, not going to be an engage.
Like you need to work
Which-
him into a comp with some CC because
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
to get his
You need-
passive stacks and stuff, I don't know how long the range is going to be, but in order to use that, and use his main abilities correctly,
He needs to
That's true.
follow up on it.
yeah, you kind of have to be close to the target.
Yeah, because even like the Q is just pretty much as slow, and
And his ult has a really long wind up apparently.
I feel as though in the right comp he'll be very good. He's gonna be, I think he's gonna be a lot like Bard currently is. Honestly, with this skill
think
set,
he-
just much more
yeah.
survivability.
I don't think he's gonna be played much. I mean, as a support, you can see some like defensive things with where he can eat his ADC in a time where it's like a.
See why he seems like he's pretty strong, right? As like a support role because he doesn't look like he has much right for laning phase.
Yeah.
But I think in a team fight he'd be really good like as like a peeling support because
Yes,
for one
exactly.
he can eat an ally or because he has no engage, he has really good disengage, or you could auto attack a lot easier if they're going into you,
Yeah,
and then you can get stuns off of it, or you could eat the enemy and pull them away.
yeah, but here's the thing. I don't like. There's clearly some synergy, where the passive gives the added effects to his abilities, and like the W and the R work together. But the E, is feels like it's kind of a selfish ability. I don't know. Like if you think of Bard, even Bard, yeah, and even Braum, like all of their abilities synergize well with the ADC.
So, I mean, if you compare him to Nautilus, I mean,
But even Nautilus.
Nautilus has a shield that's not really.
Well, oh, is it just a shield?
It's just a shield and it gives him like his damage when he attacks people with it, but
Yeah,
it's
I
not really
guess.
something that benefits a support.
That's true. That's true.
He seems like he'd be
Yeah.
a really good disengage and peel for an ADC rather than like a
Which actually might be pretty
Engage.
good doing with all the AP items and AP mid, being that it's not as bursty. If it's very consistent long fights, he'll be able to stack up even more.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
And how long does anyone know how long those stacks last on? Does it say?
doesn't say how long
It
they
doesn't
last,
say
but
here.
I'm assuming it's gonna be like a Yasuo type deal.
And does it get consumed? I want to see if that.
As
If,
as you attack, it probably is refreshing. Suppose.
well, let's see. Like, if I guess it's a question of do they get consumed? Is there like an internal on it? Because he doesn't have AOE, so what is he gonna control one target? Like, I guess you're
What's
right.
a
It's just
minion? Like he could heal off. It's like someone is going on to an ADC, right? Like a fed target.
yeah.
He could like eat his ADC,
Wow,
and he'd be pretty like
and he can eat the ADC for a
Yeah.
while.
eat his ADC, and then like walk away, throw him away, and he has his E, so he could shield himself for a lot of health. So he
Oh,
wouldn't die very
and when you
quickly.
eat somebody, it does damage too. I bet that scales pretty well. So I can see him like, flash in W, grab somebody, kind of think of like a Skarner ult with his W.
Well, it would.
Yeah,
See,
but
the
he,
only
he
issue
needs
with that
3
is
stacks of his passive to
That's
swallow
Yeah.
an
true.
enemy.
You're right.
so it'd work if he was disengaging because it'd be really easy to get your stacks out.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're trying to engage with it, I don't know how you'd be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, he's
Like
gonna
you
be
could,
more of a peel champion,
so with his
like you
E, I'm
said.
pretty sure he can throw someone in. So you could throw an ally in and then have them engage.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so but look, it really only takes 2 auto attacks. You can auto attack and then Q. I don't know if it's auto attack reset or not, and then auto attack again, and then you can W. That
You
wouldn't
can
take
assume
too
so.
long.
You could just auto Q and it's a stun.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, but like for like I'm talking about like a W combo. I'm just thinking about how long it would take to apply 3 stacks, and like maybe an auto, seeing like an auto Q. I don't know if it's an auto attack reset or not, but the auto Q auto absorb. It only take 2 auto attacks, and then you could bring the guy, like you said, disengage
Well,
with
if
the
you have like a
target.
tank too, like a Gragas, you could throw them in the fight.
Yeah,
It
that's
does
true.
damage too.
That's true. You can. I was thinking about that because you can. This is a global ult, right? Pretty sure it's global. So if you could absorb like
What
your
with his
tanky
like
target and
his
get him in the middle of a fight.
yeah, where he like devours someone too. Like
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
or you can even like in the fight you can devour a minion and then
And
throw it at them and it does damage.
and look at that. It looks like it's pretty quick once the person gets eaten. You see that? That's okay. That's Tom Kench
Yes,
though. So
when he eats an ally, then he gets moving through when moving towards enemy champions. So he has good engage for an ally.
right. That's true. That's true. Is that moving speed to everybody?
No,
Is it just to himself?
just himself and the ally that he swallowed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So if you
He
grab the
renders his
tank,
ally immune from damage and gains extra movement speed when he heads toward enemy champions.
right.
That's a strong engage. Can
Yeah.
be, I mean.
It is. I
It's like
think
a
so.
free righteous glory.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. But yeah, so I guess he has pretty good CC. It just
You have
seems
to
like
think Righteous Glory is getting nerfed also.
right,
So
right. So that might give it a little more power to that ability. I just think the biggest thing is applying. How easy is it gonna apply those 3 stacks? Like, is this, it looks like he's melee.
Well, you can like follow it up, so you do 2 stacks. You tested his tongue, so I don't know what the range of it is. And
Yeah,
then
the
you
range is
Q
pretty
and you
long.
stun them, and then you can probably get another 3 stacks off like quicker when they're stunned.
Right.
Just build 2.5 attack speed. And you'll be fine.
He
Okay.
doesn't seem like he attacks that slow, so I don't think it'd be too tough.
No, it doesn't look too bad. You're right. All right, but that's Tom Kinch. Let's move on to the next note. Echo. It just looks like there's nothing major for this patch, just some tweaks. Attack frame slightly improved, and recommend items. That's nothing really. Jace also, I think they just fixed the bug. Callista, here's the first big change. Now, what it says is here is basic attacks deal less damage, but the base attack damage and growth go up. So basically, his attack ratio has gone down, but his base attack damage has gone up, and his base attack damage growth stat has gone up. So basically, he scales better into the mid and late game because of this damage growth stat, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess they want him to keep his early game damage because they took away about 10% of his total attack damage, but gave him about 10% of his base attack damage. So that doesn't really change anything in the early game. It's really this damage growth stat that makes a difference. And I think Tim said something about they want him to stay away from the traditional ADC build,
Yeah,
IE static.
yeah, they say they want him to stay more towards the attack speed and unique build.
Yeah, so I guess they want him to keep
Rather
with
than having, yeah, they don't want like traditional build.
Yeah,
That's not all the same.
which makes sense. Calista scales very well off of just attack speed. But she also has the issue of falling off into the late game. And in the meta right now, we're seeing a lot of late game ADCs being played. Sivir, Vayne, Tristan a little bit here and there. Those are all pretty good scaling ADCs. Also, the Q has changed. It can no longer be cast mid dash. Now, I'm a horrible Calista, but I've never really noticed that Q can be thrown mid dash, but I can see where like you can auto attack and then while you're dashing throw a Q for a little bit of bonus damage. I can see how that's a pretty powerful early, stacking Q, right? So I guess that's something that will affect probably high level play or just really good Callistas. They'll
It's a
probably feel
big
it.
good finisher too. You see that sometimes. Like
Yeah, a little bit extra damage. Yeah,
dash twice, sort of, and get damage into towers from
right.
Q.
Any thoughts, Eric?
Not really on that change, no.
Okay. All right. Gabe, any thoughts?
You covered it. I mean, the scaling increase, trying to make her emphasize her building attack speed instead of flat AD.
Right. Okay. So I think we
Trying to
covered.
remove. Trying to remove. It sounds like they're also trying to remove some of her like instant bursts to make her more of a sustain again to emphasize attack speed. A sustain fight with the attack speed
Right.
instead of
Uh,
just like auto queuing and chunking.
I
Yeah.
think that goes along the lines with all the buffs slash nerfs throughout this patch. They're
Yeah.
just trying to get more of lengthy fights. They're getting away from the burst,
Yeah. Because that is an issue. I remember Tim saying
which
earlier. The burst
I
is kind of out
fully
of control right
approve
now.
that.
Yeah, we'll go into that more during our meta
That's
conversation.
after DFG too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
couldn't even imagine DFG in this meta.
let's move on to Kale. Kale's got a pretty big change, I think. Her E passively,
They
Kale's basic
just.
attack deals 10, 15, 20, 30, 25, 30. Just more damage on hit passively to
Over
his
time, yeah.
attacks. It's not even over time. It's just, it's just a flat additional ability power damage to his basic attacks. I think that's a huge change. How do you feel about it, Tim?
About the passive damage.
Yeah.
I think it's a good passive. I think it will work well with the improved Devour.
Okay.
A lot more damage.
Okay.
Gonna help utilize the Nashor's Tooth buff also.
Give you a lot more lane dominance
Yeah,
than she used to
exactly.
have.
Do you think now she was a good split pusher before? Do you think this is going to change her clear speed and her split push more now? You think it's really going to have an effect on that or
I'm
not?
sure
I
just
mean,
she'll just keep that consistency.
Okay.
yeah, you already two-shot waves pretty much once you have three
Mhm.
items.
Mhm.
Now she's kind of Kale. When you think of Kale, she's kind of the anti-burst champion. You can think of her as like a direct counter to Zed, and her ult, with invulnerability. Do you think that she might be kind of like a good counter pick in this meta? Do you think would this buff be enough to make her played? Why isn't she being played already? Gabe, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, why is she being played currently?
No, no, no. Just answer this. Why do you think that these changes are enough to put her into the meta as sort of like a counter to all the bursty champions out right now?
I don't know if they're trying to directly put her in the meta. They're just trying to emphasize more of like there's on hit buffs for Devour, on hit buffs for Kale.
Okay, so you think you're just trying to. Okay. What about you?
They're trying to make her early game. It looks like this is gonna mostly improve her early game transition into her power spike.
Okay.
Because
I
Kale's
also
mostly
think,
like a mid to late game power spiker.
Yeah.
but I think bringing Kale into the meta, which I think that's what they're trying to do, it's also going to slow down those burst champions that we're just seeing that are out of control at the
Deleting.
moment.
Right.
And they're yeah. I mean,
I don't see Kale become very strong, like a monster off of this change, but I see her getting played,
it just
which will
seems like
slow
they're
down
trying
everything
to
else.
extend the length of team fights.
Okay.
I wouldn't say extend the length things. I would say bring the skill back to them.
Well, are you?
Yeah,
First,
I guess that's better saying.
go all in and blow every single ability you have, and then run away. And one person just died.
Well, here's a fun little caveat. Do you think that if it's the more bursty the game is, the less skillful it is?
I
Because
believe
that's
so.
that kind of what you're saying. Now, how come? Do you agree with this, Tim?
That reduces the skill.
that if the more bursty the game is, the less skillful it is. With all these bursty champions, does it take away from the skill of the game?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say that because they have champions that kind of counter the burst, and so you just have to play a comp and champions that work against it. Like Kale, for example. Like if you play her better and you have a well-timed ult, it counters the burst champion. So it just provides like equal skill rather than less skill.
Champions are overvalued.
You think so?
I mean, they're increasing the missile size of Vigar's ult, so they're trying to like make it easier to like detect that burst.
Right.
But Vigar has not been played and probably still won't be played.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
So
I
Eric,
think I agree more with Tim.
okay. So Eric, why do you feel like burst takes away from skill in the game?
Because most of the burst champions are point click,
Okay, but that
so it takes the value of skill shots.
okay. So what you're saying is because burst champions tend to be point click, the more consistent damage ones add skill to the game. But really, you're saying is more skill shots, more skill, right? That's really what you're coming down
Essentially,
to.
yeah,
Okay.
of course.
All right. Let's move on to Kinnan. These are both bug fixes, so these are low changes. We're gonna skip that. Nautilus, looks like they brought their E damage down. Tim said earlier that he thinks this is more of a top lane change.
I don't know. Support Nautilus was having some
That's
pretty
true.
easy trades.
That's true. This would hurt support a lot too, because honestly I've never really felt Nautilus's damage. I've never really thought, wow, Nautilus does too much damage, unless I'm playing support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that role, you can feel Nautilus's damage because he brings so much CC on top of having all that damage. You can see how that's probably a little overtuned.
And again, you have to take into account of Tim is a top main, and you're
Right. Well, do you think this has implications into, the jungle and the top? Do you think this is really going to affect his play? Because, he's not played much in the jungle, but you've been seeing.
Well, we're not really seeing him in the jungle.
Yeah.
I mean, you somewhat notice his trading, I guess, in lane and bottom lane. There's probably something for that too.
Okay.
Top lane is just he has really easy wave clear with it.
Okay.
yeah.
He can out trade really easily with it.
Okay.
Just reducing his overall damage. I don't know, just making his wave clear and everything a little bit.
Okay. So this
I
is.
think it'll make him more manageable.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
kind of hard to trade with him right now if you EW, and you get a huge shield.
Sure.
So it just makes it so you can trade with him easier.
Right. Okay. Well, on to Rek'Sai. Unburrow, the knockup radius has gone down by 40 points from 200 to 160. Personally, I think this is a pretty big change because I think E is kind of unreliable to get the knockup as it is. You would see a lot of times in LCS they'd have to, when ganking, they'd have to flash to even get the knockup. So I think with the radius going down even more, yes, it's targeted towards team fights, but I think just ganking potential. If you had used flash before, you're definitely gonna have to use flash now. And in team fights, you're not gonna be able to hit up full teams or 3 players. You're probably gonna be able to hit up 2 if they have decent spacing, and I can see that being an issue for Rek'Sai. Because Gabe, what's your views on that?
No, I was gonna say all that.
Okay.
Maybe they felt she was too. I mean, what? She W's in. She's there. She has a huge health bar. W's away. She gets a massive knock up and a play is made.
Yeah, and then it's multiple knockups throughout the match too.
Yeah.
With a little
it's
cooldown.
just-
Yeah. I agree. I don't know if it was necessary, but I can see it. I can see Rek'Sai's a pretty popular pick anyway, so I guess it's good just to bring her down to earth.
I guess tuning her.
Yeah.
I play a lot of Rek'Sai. I personally, I don't know about, at least solo queue wise, I never had an issue hitting my W, so I don't know if it.
I don't really see the full point. I mean, she's played a lot, but her popularity doesn't mean she's in need of a fix.
Right.
And it could be that the change is to attempt to bring other champions in,
That's true.
not your
To the
only
jungle meta.
pick.
Just
Yeah, but you have to
diversity.
think in terms of LCS, almost every single team has Rek'Sai on it
Mm.
at one point in their game.
It's hard to say how noticeable what will even it will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it says like right now it's generous range catches people pretty much off guard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
But
you think you wouldn't be hit and you are, and so
at higher
it
skill
actually requires you
levels,
to get
I
the
can
hit.
see it. At higher
Like
skill levels,
if
I
you
guess you could
flank
see it.
correctly and everything as Rek'Sai, you should be able to get the knockup.
Yeah,
If
but
you're gonna flash before, you probably have to flash the same now.
yeah.
And a lot of times when you see them flash in the LCS just because it's harder to gain because they have a lot more rewards and such.
Right. So yeah, definitely you won't feel it as much as a pro would. But I can see it like even in team fights. Like I think this is where this change is directed. You won't be able to hit up as many people as easily. You know. I get I guess unless they're stacked, but
It's
they
just
don't.
hard to say. I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to see how much noticeable it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Singed. Now Singed.
What about Shyvana here?
I don't see Shyvana.
Oh man,
You don't?
I'm just
No.
saying.
Oh, see, they must have just added this Shyvana. Whoops, we missed this in the original 5.13 notes. It's now documented. Sorry.
Rip. All right. I see it now. Okay. Shyvana.
All right, so what?
Burnout. Just a little less
They
damage
just
on
nerfed her
burnout.
burnout damage. So it's just a little bit less clear. It's not that big of a nerf.
Nah.
Okay, so it looks like they're nerfing it for the new jungle changes. It looks like it is too much damage with the new I think
The new Devour.
yeah or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is. So it's just
Yeah.
just to keep her at the same power without her going out of control. Okay. All right, on to Singed. Um so, general base magic resist up to zero point 0.1 points from
Bro
30 to
status
32.
up.
And the magic resist growth status up, which it didn't have a growth stat before. Now it has a growth stat
Hey, wake up.
of 25%, I think. So
So
that's
what? They're trying to tune him for play. It doesn't seem like it's a big kind of pushing him in, or
Yeah, not at all.
tuning
This
him
will-
for
this will affect his-
veterans who already play him.
well, this will affect his tankiness for sure.
Well, we've noticed a lot recently. Like last patch too, they've been buffing the magic resist growth stat on top lane champions.
Hmm.
A lot of ones that didn't have it before, they're like giving it to them.
Yeah,
I
you're right.
don't know exactly which one they did last time, but I remember it happening.
It has to do with the burstiness.
So with like a lot more magic resist, maybe top lane.
Yeah.
Magic damage.
Yeah.
And yeah, then the fling has a longer root duration.
Yeah, that's interesting. All the way up to 2 seconds. That's pretty long for a root. 2 seconds is a long time.
Normally you max your E second too, so you'd probably get that,
Yeah.
by around 12 or
Yeah, 12,
whatever
13,
level.
right around there. Yeah.
13.
So I mean, that's
Which would be
that's
very
right in the mid-game.
interesting to see.
And his tankiness by that time should start spiking too. He might be scary.
But it gives a lot more like
This root is huge now.
you really
Yeah.
want to hit that root now though. It's like
And especially
2-second root into the
yeah,
slow.
especially if they are getting away from the bursty champions and trying to change it around.
Mhm.
His consistent team damage with the poison on the ground in a team fight it adds up, man.
Well, now he has isolation
Singed.
too. Like he can
Yeah,
run
yeah,
up.
that's
giving
what
him
I
the
mean.
ability to actually CC now too is pretty
It's
big.
huge. That's what 2 seconds is like a Morgana binding, right? Morgana's
A
been
little
going
bit
down.
0.5
less.
is Morgana binding at max level, so yeah, it's basically that's a long
Almost
time.
there.
And then what's his W? Is it a 60% slow?
Oh, I don't know.
Something
It-
something along those
60?
lines.
I think it's 80, but I don't want to. That's a little high.
But at that
One
rate,
second.
anyways, you build Rallies, and Rallies is now 40% slow.
That's true. That's true.
With the AoE effects, it's
Yeah,
40% slow now.
And all these AP items.
His slow
getting-
is 35%, but goes up to 75.
There you go.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
by max level he's gonna be crazy.
Oh yeah, and they buffed the slow and AoE effects. And Rallies is generally an early item you buy in Singe too.
Yeah, it is.
I honestly just Singe kit's weird, but I guess it just depends on how well he does in an early game. He's probably
But with
pretty
the buff,
easy
the
to.
Rallies and Rod of Ages and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might actually be very viable.
Yeah. It just I guess it
And
all
the
depends
buffs
on how you
have
get out
been
the
doing
early
this.
game.
He has a lot
Huh.
more CC and stuff now.
Yeah,
he
a lot
might
of
be
his core items got, and the Leandries too. A lot of his core items
He's
got,
got
buffed
buffed. Yep.
yeah.
and price reduced.
Look for Singed on the Rift, guys. Looks
Yeah,
like
maybe
it's-
we'll see him.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Skarner, bug fix. Guess you could just use your passive on towers, and they took that away.
Bug fix.
Syndra, this is also kind of a bug fix. Basically, the way her interaction with E and R on Yasuo's W and Brahms E. Uh, they now bounce
I
off
think
it.
I think that's increasing her team fight
Yeah.
Which it could, yeah.
It's
because now her
basically
balls are still in existence, so she can still like once her cooldowns reset, she can still interact those balls instead of them like being gone.
yeah. So I guess it's kind of a
And
little bit of a buff to her.
maybe with all the AP changes to the items, that maybe we will see Syndra come back.
I want to have a talk. Yeah. Why isn't Syndra being played right now? Is it just her low range? Because you
I
know
think it's her low range combined with her like primarily single target damage.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like Syndra is like a burst champion, and she has low range, and then you put her against like a Varus, for example, and
Yeah.
he'll just outrage you all day, and you'll never be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Varus will just beat you in lane, and he has a really safe lane, you know.
Yeah.
Like the same reason we don't see Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger's like range is super low, and he can't trade with you.
Right. Okay. Okay. But yeah, these are pretty good changes. It'll help
A
her
lot
just
of bug
help her a
changes.
little bit of tad in certain situations. But yeah, it's mostly bugs. Let's move on to Thresh. Same thing. Bug changes. Your passive picks a bug where souls would appear to fly to Thresh from extreme distances. Nothing really that big and important. But
I remember seeing that a couple times.
Scuttle Crab now spawns a soul, so kill those scuttles. Dark Passage. Lantern now does not despawn while Thresh is mid-flight towards his death sentence target. I did not know that it despawned. I guess it did despawn if it ran out of range. That means it gives them more time to click it. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, probably.
Mhm.
So
That makes sense.
you can
I've
do.
never seen it despawn.
Yeah, I guess maybe you can do longer Dark Passage Death Sentence combos now. That's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Move on to Vigar. Vigar, missile size now scales with Vigar's ability power. Basically just like to to make the visual match the skill's power, so you can kind of get a
Yeah,
feel
it's yeah,
for it.
look pretty tame. Now it looks a lot
Yeah,
bigger, cooler.
yeah, bigger the scarier. So you'll be able to tell a
Yeah.
little bit just with your eyes how much damage it's doing, which is good. Xin Zhao, Battle Cry's ability ratio went down from zero point 0.7 to zero point 0.5, and what Riot said was that this was a change. He was just healing too much with the new
Devour.
Devour. Yeah, it's just making sure that his power stays the same and works as intended. Don't want him to become like a AP Xin Zhao or something. Zillion, there was a bug where rewind would not work with certain skill combos, right? So
No, the
now,
issue was rewind could be cast while both your Q and E were on cooldown, and it was pointless. So
okay,
now you can't cast W while your
got
Q
it.
and E
So
are on cooldown.
you can't waste the skill. Okay,
Can't waste the skill anymore.
makes sense. Pulsefire Ezreal, a little change to Pulsefire Ezreal. People were complaining that it felt slow or sluggish compared to the original skin. So they fixed the cast animations and the basic attack animation. So it should feel a little more responsive while you play Pulsefire Ezreal. Now on to the next big part of the changes, the items. The first one would be the Enchantment Devourer. I'm going to read the changes and we're going to get your guys' thoughts on it. So, starting on hit magic damage has increased from 25 to 30. Large monsters give you 1 stack per takedown, kill or assist. Epic monsters give you 5 stacks per takedown, and champions give you 1 stack per takedown. Now, the difference here is between kill and takedown. Takedown means kill or assist. So, if I think the example they use is if Callista secures a Baron or a Dragon, it you'll still get the stacks for it because you assisted the large monster. So
Yeah.
you'll get less punished for those guys that go around and take your buffs while
Yeah,
you're
they
on it.
steal your CS.
Yeah, exactly.
You also get 2 for Rift Scholar.
Right. Oh, okay, that's really cool.
For the takedown for Rift Scholar too.
Yeah, take down Risk Color as well. So that's actually pretty bonus incentive. That's a lot. That's not bad. Okay. Also, there's a ghost dog. While stacking your devour, you're accompanied by a ghost dog who will go with your stacks. Guess it's just a little bit of a visual thing there with you. And at 30 stacks, ghost dog merges with the wielder, and the devour transforms into the sated devour. And basically every other basic attack triggers on hits twice. So
Is that a reference to something? I don't understand this ghost dog thing.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't think of any references.
I'm not sure.
But I want to know, Tim, what's your immediate thoughts with these changes?
I think it's just a big buff to attack speed champions, like in the jungle, you know, Master Yi,
Which again,
Warwick,
I hope
Xin
it
Zhao.
changes the meta.
Yeah,
Sort of like bringing the meta back to how it was when the Pharaoh Flare was a big thing.
yeah,
So it's just
Oh,
bringing
that's
back
true.
those
That is
champions.
true.
yeah. That was Nocturne, a lot of Udyr.
But they made it a lot better by
Master
giving the
Yi.
incentive to get objectives through it rather than just farming the entire game, and that's what a big point they were trying to make too.
Yeah.
A lot more to ganking and getting objectives rather than just farming your jungle and trying to get the stash.
Right. That's all. That's true. I didn't at 30. So there's a 30 stat cap now. So you don't just really know. It's exactly like Feral Flare, right? That's what Feral Flare was. I think the Feral
Yeah.
Flare kept giving damage even afterwards too. But
Well, going to that point, when I was listening to Night Blue this morning, he was making a very strong point about um, getting the assassin jungle meta changes coming, and he also pointed out that I've never heard this before, but on the assassin jungles, your goal is 60 CS in 12 minutes.
oh, really?
Focus on the 60 CS for 12 minutes with that new jungle item.
Okay.
I guess that gets you there.
That's a lot of farming though. That's like I don't know if you can even gank trying to hit that much
But that's
CS.
kind of the point of right there is like an incentive to get the CS rather than what they're trying to say is to make it more objective based, so you get it through doing objectives too.
Yeah.
That sounds more like a selfish way to do it rather than a group way.
Right. But I guess
Yeah,
in,
of
but I guess
course.
in solo queue you have to be a little more selfish too,
Yeah,
right? So
true. But if you were to see that build, I don't know if that would, but like the pro scene,
But
you'd probably see the
even in the pro
objectives
scene,
and
when Feral Flare was around, they would still spend the first fucking half of the game in the
the thing
jungle
was
farming it.
what they've done with this one is they made it so you get way more for like Rift Scholar, epic monsters and stuff. You get way more stacks and you get it on takedowns.
Okay, so yeah,
And there's a
objectives
limit
then.
too. So for Flare, you can stack it infinitely, and then you can just keep getting more and more. But this one has a cap. Up to the point you don't need to keep doing the farming
Okay, that makes sense.
to that extent.
okay. So cool change. Hopefully it's a meta change. Now, here's a question about the implications. What if this becomes the norm and all you do see are the Udyrs and Nocturnes and these champions that are more farm heavy?
God, that meta was what was that season 3? That was so annoying
Yeah.
because it's just a lot of auto attack, just
Yeah.
red buff abuse, where you just literally you need a dash to escape, and you
I
just
mean, you
have
might
to.
see it be like they haven't nerfed anything they had before, so it's not like you won't see old things. I feel like, and this is just like totally dominant.
Yeah.
Like they didn't nerf the tanky items, you know.
Well,
so those
well
would
this
still be decent.
well this gives like pretty good damage, right? This gives like I'd say pretty good damage, right? So could you know how Cinderhulk is just flat strength with a little bit of AoE? Could you build this and then just go full tank for a little more damage, like an optimized tank build? You think that could
So
work?
so maybe just make them stronger,
Yeah.
or just add them to the meta because it's always been a thing where assassins tank counters assassins, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't it just make sense having more like a counter comp rather than like
Right.
totally take over the meta?
Yeah. Exactly. I think their goal is to make all, I guess, as many champions viable. It seems like.
Yeah, make a lot more comps and
Right.
strategies viable rather than remove one.
Yeah. This doesn't
So
seem
maybe
like.
you'll see both be viable, you know?
Yeah. Do you think this is gonna be and this takes care of it? Now, this was replacing? No, it's not. I'm sorry. Okay. Never
There was
mind.
an old valve, they just changed it.
Yeah, and that one was just like attack speed and the magic on damage hit. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
they're just yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to Runeglaive. So ability power up to 50 from 40. The spell blade ratio is up from 0.75 to 1.0, and it fixed the bug where Runeglaive was applying spell effects basically on auto attack. So this is a pretty good change. You won't see Ezreal take it as much, but it looks like overall the AP ratios have been increased.
Yeah, it looks like they buffed it for like jungle
Mm-hmm.
champions, and they're trying to like make it so it's not as strong for the lane like Ezreal's.
Seems like it'd be really strong on Fizz now.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
you'll see even jungle Fizz
Mm-hmm. Which is
Instead of
not
lane Fizz.
too far fetched. We
or
saw that
lane Fizz.
we saw that a couple patches ago actually. So, that's a possibility. Good change. And now see, it says here that Ezreal's Q works as a basic attack.
It applies on hits, yeah.
Okay. Does this mean that it would apply that still applies to an Echo then, right?
So it would still apply the Runeglaive, but it wouldn't
Apply the Ludens, right?
have the echo.
Okay,
Pretty safe.
that's a pretty big change, I think.
Yeah.
I guess it just means you have to hit the W or the E though. I don't know. I think Runeglaive
Yeah.
so far has affected AP Ezreal the most, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Righteous Glory nerf. Health down by 100, cooldown up by 30 seconds. Seems like a pretty big nerf, which I think is fine. I think Righteous Glory is pretty strong as is. So what champions do you think this is going to be affecting?
I think just nerfs.
You,
I mean, you see a lot in the support role,
right.
jungle role,
We
top
think
lane role.
so. You guys
But
think?
just mainly engage champions like say Maokai.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of Maokai. He's not as much a meta right now, but he's still really strong in him. Or supports, you know, is doing like a first item for like Alistar.
A lot of
Or
sports.
even like Annie's, Janna's, you
yeah,
know.
right.
With
So,
the buff of the coin, though, you've seen that a little bit less, but it's still
do you think this is
good
going to
item.
stop being like a first buy on these supports? They're going to move into different items now?
Well, they said like it was just too efficient for the pros. So they mainly
Yeah.
nerfed it because they really knew how to abuse it.
Yeah.
I have to agree that certain champions it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like a Maokai running after you, man. It's crazy.
So I mean, if you're still running more than one, like
It-
if you're running one top laner, I don't think it'll be that big of a nerf.
It is
And traditionally, most of the time they do run more than one. So
You
okay.
can still effectively use it. And
Yeah.
it's not gonna, you just have to like be
So not too big of an effect
more
in team
conservative
fights,
with it, you
but
know.
maybe catches are going to be a little bit
Yeah.
harder. But this item essentially gave everyone who lacked an engage and engage, huh? You can
But even
chase
though
at people.
if you still build coin, like a lot of times you see supports building more than one now, so I don't know if it'd be that noticeable either.
Right. Okay. All right. So you guys seem to not think it's too big. You know, it's definitely a blow, but
Definitely a nerf, but
you don't think
with
it'll
how many
change?
there are right now being built,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that big of a deal, you know. If you, as long as you don't waste it or something.
Right.
I
Okay.
think it's still gonna be a core item.
Okay. So no changes to the core. You're gonna feel it, but if there's more than one, it'll be okay. All right. On to the Spirit Visage. 20% healing bonus to all healing. So I guess this means that even if you're healed by other teammates.
Like they say, it's a pretty big buff to Soraka. Just
Yeah.
a general buff.
Yeah, Sona. I could see that.
It's pretty just a lot more healing.
Wow, that's actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a
You can
huge
see
buff.
some synergy, like you said, Sona.
Like Soraka,
Yeah.
dude, a lot more healing.
Yeah. That's crazy.
20% healing, man. That's a lot of healing.
That is a lot of healing. Yeah. That'll make some like super tanks. Double heal comps coming out right now.
Like your ult would do so
mid,
much healing.
so support.
Map wide.
Yeah,
lot of
it should
pressure.
be Mac wide. It should be.
I mean, like Soraka's ult would have a lot more healing
Right,
once she
right.
builds it.
right. That's a pretty, it's a pretty good buff. And now the next big thing. So in this patch, they're completely changing the AP items and the way they work. So we're just gonna go through each item and the change and what we think about it. The first one's the blasting one. Costs 10 less gold. I guess just to make the 850 instead of the 860 makes more sense. Needlessly large rod. Here's the big change. 350 gold off the cost from 1600 to 1250, but ability power is from 80 to 60. How's your guys' thoughts on that? Makes it pretty much easier to buy on first packs, right?
Just like
Much more gold efficient now.
You think so?
It's a lot more gold efficient.
Okay.
Like what they tried to say in their thing, right, was like Zonia's, Ludens, and Deathcap, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really synergize well with each other, and they're super gold efficient. And so, like other items, Rallies, the Slandries, and such,
Right.
they were pretty goldy. They're inefficient and they're not really worth buying. So what they said, they're trying to make it so all the items have more
Diversity in builds,
diversity,
essentially.
Got
and
it.
do a lot more. They offer
Right.
more choices.
And needlessly large rod always felt kind of like that road bump you had to get over, and you can
Yeah, so
almost
they're making it a lot easier to buy those items sooner,
Yep. Yeah.
And then they're making it so you can buy a lot more of the magic items rather than having a disadvantage if you want to buy,
Yeah.
the
100%.
Sandries or something.
They've also changed the items it's built into. Rabadon's Death Cap, total cost up 200 gold, but it gives you an now additional 5% ability power bonus. How you feel how these changes are going to affect the mid lane game?
I mean, they're making it so it's a lot. You need a lot less gold investment to get like core damaging items.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I'm thinking more like a heavy mid game roaming kind of comp, not comp, but like emphasis. Because what your damage is scaling earlier, so you're hitting spikes earlier.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
It makes sense. So you just think like they're going to be more powerful in the mid game through
I
these
think they're
changes.
just speeding up the what mid game, what AP any kind of champ that builds AP is just going to be like their build's just going to be sped up
Right.
Yeah.
So
in terms of scaling.
maybe they won't get their completed item right as soon,
Right.
but they'll get their components, which give them a little bit more power early to mid. You kind
Yeah,
of
because most mid laners have like a really expensive core, like two or three item core that you need to get. That's like each of them are like a 3K gold, 2 to 3K gold investment.
yeah. Okay. How do you, Tim? You said Rabbit on Death's Cap is going to be like a staple item, like the core go-to mid lane item now.
Well, I think it's a go-to. Like they're actually pointing out it's like before it was just an item you got and they didn't have that much an advantage the other items, but it's more of like the go-to if you want ability power.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what they were going for before, but it wasn't like as prominent, Like
Well,
there
that's
wasn't
funny.
as big
But
of an
even
advantage to go to
but
it.
even going with that, what you were saying before, Tim, with the three Deathcap, Zonias, and Ludens, you're looking at a huge difference in item cost now. All three of those items before costed 9,900 gold. Now they only cost 9,500 gold. You're essentially going to get those items much sooner.
I think you'll
But
get like the contents of the items sooner, so maybe you'll get more, like Gabe was saying, a little bit more AP
early
early.
game,
Just more efficient backing. So generally,
Yeah.
by the time you back, at least in
Right.
solo queue, you have like 1,200 gold or so your
Yeah.
first back. So maybe you can go with the rod if you want.
Now, do you think these changes are going to phase out Morellonomicons and Athenes? Because I
I don't know.
know.
It's hard to say because you've seen that built before, and they say generally there's mana. Like you can run into mana issues a lot. So unless you have like a consistent blue buff, it's kind of risky to do that.
Sure.
but then again, with it is now you're getting more early. Now you're getting more damage by building Athenes and Morellos because as we go on, you're gonna hear that they're changing the build path for them.
Sure. Okay, so let's move on to Zonias then. Uh, Less ability power, kind of like every change, and but 300 gold less. So you're gonna be getting it quicker. Seems like I guess it's just more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on to Ludens. I think it's kind of the same thing. More movement speed, less ability power, 300 less gold. So I think it's just increasing efficiency while keeping in there, well, reacting to the changes to the needlessly large. Rylai's is the first big change, I think. So the cost goes up 100 gold. Ability power doesn't change. Health doesn't change. But the single target slow goes up 5%, and the area of effect slow goes up 25% to 40%. So now, so how do you guys feel these change? Do you think this item's gonna be built a little more? Do you think it's just like buffs to a few champions like Singed?
I think it's gonna be more of a staple for the top
Singed.
lane AP now.
Essentially, Singed is gonna have AOE slows for everybody, right? You hit his poison, you're instantly slowed for 40%, right?
Well, I mean, if anyone has slows, like in any AOA slow,
Yeah,
it has a lot more reason to buy it.
right.
Before it was only 50% slow. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's
If
almost
you can
negligible.
consistently put on a 40% slow, that's
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a
pretty good
lot.
slow.
Yeah,
And they didn't nerf the AP, so it's just as good as buying like a Zonias now
yeah,
or a Luden's Echo. So you're not getting like a AP disadvantage for doing it.
right. That's
So
true.
really, you're spending the same amount of gold for Rallies as you are like a Luden's or an Hourglass, and now you're getting a slow. So you get
Exactly.
health, and then you lose movement speed. So it might even be worth buying a Rallies now over a
Over
Luden's
Luden's,
if
yeah.
you're not poked. Like
Right.
if you have like slows and you want a lot of more health.
Well,
or something.
you're seeing a
You're a
lot, like you
consistent
said.
damage champion like Rumble, for
Yeah,
Yeah,
instance.
like a Rumble too. It'd be like it's even better now in Rumble, or you might even see more mages with it mid lane.
Well, like you said, you saw Annie's in the past by building Ludens, but it makes more sense to buy Rylai's because now even this with I choose you, summon minions. For example, Annie's Timbers.
And Ludens was nerfed not that long ago,
Now
so it's not
slow.
quite as strong as it was. So with
Exactly.
the Rallies, you just get pretty strong slow now,
Yeah.
and it might even be better than Echo. You know,
Yeah, no, I definitely think you would see
like
that.
you might see it bot now over. Like you gives you 400 health too, so it makes you even tankier,
Right, yeah.
harder to kill.
Yeah.
Gives you a good slow. You might see a lot more over.
Incoming Rod of Ages into Rylai's, yeah?
Yeah, versus Rod of Ages into Ludens, like currently. I could see that. Especially on champions like Annie.
Yeah.
I definitely think you'll see a lot more rallies though than you have been.
And I choose you. Summon minions, example, Annie's Tibbers. Now slow on hit 20% for 1 second. So that's a little extra synergy with Annie or Mordekaiser, champions like that.
So, hold on.
I'm
I'm
sure it
trying
means
to.
like York too.
Yorick as well,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm trying to
That's a big buff for
understand the
Yorick.
skill interaction. So, the Rylai's is going to convert your AoE. Well, okay, so AoE attacks that do not slow now have a slow, right?
Yes.
And now it's
Yes.
a 45% slow.
40%.
40% slow. So Runeglaive spell attack is gonna have with Rylai's a 40% slow now. If you build Rylai's Runeglaive.
I would have to say
Yeah,
so,
I would
yeah.
essentially.
So you
Yeah.
you'd have a Lichbane burst kind of slow now. When you
Elite.
go in
Yeah.
as like for Fizz,
So
for
imagine
example,
like an Evelyn builder.
Wow.
if you queue in,
Evelyn or like even an Elise.
Yeah,
Elise with
like
her
Evelyn would build like you get
Q or
Evelyn,
W?
Yeah,
Fizz,
Elise too. Yeah.
Elise is gonna have a massive slow when they proc an ability.
Yeah. This might be really strong, you know. That 40% slows a
That's
lot
what I'm
to
thinking,
run down.
right?
I
And
mean,
Like you build that
they
on
just
Evelyn,
changed.
and then you build the rallies.
Yeah.
You get strong slow.
yeah.
They just changed the slow interaction, right? So only the strongest slow is applied.
Yes.
I mean, 40%.
It's not bad. Not bad at all.
Well, it's like that one build you ran on Evelyn. What was it with that
Oh yeah, with AP and the Frozen Gauntlets, you won't have to build
the
Frozen
frozen
Gauntlets.
gauntlet? So it'd be like the same thing,
Yeah.
except you'd
More
be
damage.
like a lot more damage.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
more
Thank you.
health.
Yeah. You get the
It
health.
seems like
you don't get the
it
armor,
seems
but
like a huge buff to like kind
no.
of like position and control
So I definitely
champs.
think
Yeah,
it
no,
brings
I
like AP assassin junglers like back, like Elise,
Yeah.
Evelyn. Like it makes them even stronger now, and you probably
Right.
see them a lot more.
Right.
Maybe assassin jungles are a thing now.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Definitely.
like, Evelyn was
I
already
think-
coming back, and this probably even like makes her stronger, you know?
Well, I think in conjunction with the Rylai's what Runeglaive, I think you might see. I think AP. I think it might be the right combo for AP junglers. Gives you the control you need. It gives you the tankiness you need, and you know, and the damage. You know, so you're really hitting on all fronts. And that's it. You just what you think that Runeglaive into Rylai's, and then you just go tanky out of
I'm
that.
seeing Runeglaive Rylai's for like big dive kind of champs like Fizz, Elise, or Evelyn.
Yeah.
Just
Which you can
just
all bring
come
into
in,
the jungle.
boom,
you know,
no
maybe.
escape.
Even Diana.
Diana
Really good
too.
for Diana.
Yeah, Diana has is just bursty in general. Yeah, that could
So
definitely see that.
just like huge burst on Runeglaive Rylai's, huge burst on New Devour, like
And with
assassin jungles.
and the cheaper main item Zonia's is 300 cheaper now. You know that
Yeah.
helps with the
Yeah.
limited gold you get in the jungle as is. You know, maybe you can get away with building these high AP items.
You might even start seeing some unconventional mid laners now with these kind of item combos.
True, like more control.
Like maybe Lux
Like
is gonna come
Mordekaiser
back
and
with the
stuff.
new Rylai's.
Well, yeah, that's Mordekaiser's problem, right? You can't
Yeah.
stay on anybody. Now you have a 40% slow. That solves everything.
40% slow, and he already built rallies sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it gives him, like, Mordekaiser, though, is one of the champions that had, like, it's kind of bringing it down a little bit, because we haven't talked about this yet, but Will Ancient's buff, you know, about the spellman?
That's right. Yeah.
He was kind of in the champion then until he really got the spell pen. He kind of struggled with
Right.
not to have much life still,
So-
but this might actually make him stronger
There's
in
some
that
synergy
sense.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's.
And, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
What
No.
are we on now? No, that's fine.
I just
bring
want
that in
to.
later.
I want to get to the Will of Ancient so we can bring it back up.
Yeah.
Archangel staff, a little more expensive, but more ability power. So
I feel like it's not very gold efficient.
you don't think so? You think that really hurts its efficiency?
300 gold for 20 AP.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Well, let's look at
I mean, it was
large.
pretty inefficient before. Like, where
Yeah.
it was just mana sustain and then a barely like noticeable amount of not. It was noticeable, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Well, if you put it in
Yeah.
perspective, an amp tome is 20 ability power for 435 gold, and that's 20 for 300.
Yeah.
There's 125 less than what the amp tome would give you for 20.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's efficient.
I
So
guess.
Yeah, it's
It's just when you're comparing it to things like Rallies or Ludens that are the same cost.
well, you don't buy the archangels for damage. You really buy it for the shield and the really you
And the
buy it for the
mana
mana.
sustain.
You buy it for the
Yeah.
mana. So it just
But
gives
at
you a
this
little
point,
more damage.
what champions are utilizing that
Uh,
that are
Nidalee,
played at the moment?
Nidalee, Runeglaive Ezreal,
Cassiopeia.
Anivias,
But
Cassiopeia, Anivia.
Cassiopeias,
You're right. These are all kind of on the
Rise.
fringe just a little bit, except for like the Rise
yeah,
and the Ezreal's new. But you can see how that just gives them a little more damage. You know, I don't see it as an issue. I think
To make it a little bit stronger in lane, it's required me to build anyways.
it
It's a
increases the
little bit more
efficiency.
efficient
the
now.
problem with it is it takes you longer to get that damage spike. Because
Uh,
before you would go to tier to blasting wand, now you have to go from tier to needler, which
that's
is
true.
much more expensive.
That's true.
So
So
you're weaker longer.
there's some trade-off. You're right, but I
So
think this change is probably just falling in line with the rest of the changes and build
It's hard
orders
to
and stuff
tell
like
how
that.
big of a deal it would be.
Right.
yeah,
Okay. So Seraph's Embrace obviously changed as well to match Archangels. Rod of Ages, 100 less gold, base health reduced by 150, but base mana reduced by 400, but you have double the mana growth all the way up to 400 mana after 10 minutes, and you have double the ability power growth up to 40 ability power after 10 minutes. So you have way more mana, 200 more mana. You have 20 more ability power on this item, and it's cheaper. You lose the health, but I think as far as an AP item goes,
better.
it'll give you a little more damage with the sacrifice of a little survivability, which makes a little more sense if you're going like an AP carry, kind of fits the AP carry more than like an AP tank item anyways. And I guess traditionally it was used as an AP tank item. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it still gives you the good amount of health,
yeah,
and you get a lot more AP and mana off of it.
right. I really think I think this is not a bad buy. I'm probably gonna see this a little more often too. In conjunction with the Rylai's, like maybe you'll see them go. You think it's too expensive? Probably too expensive, right? To go Runeglaive Rod in the jungle. Probably, right? I
I don't
think
In
know.
the jungle is a little expensive
yeah, I think
for
that
not much like I don't like not much
right.
damage scaling
Yeah, I think
or health scaling anymore.
yeah, I think I'd probably prefer Runeglaive Rylai's anyways, and then at that
Yeah,
point there's no reason to get Rod.
A lot more damage, a lot more fight potential.
Yeah. You can go, but with this additional mana, maybe you can forego like a Morello's or
yeah,
what
exactly.
or an Archangels with it. I don't know if people did go Archangels with the Rod. I can't think of any
Yeah,
builds, but maybe this can be your single AP item, you know, with a little bit of tankiness.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to Haunting, guys. They just cleaned up the gold numbers, added 20 gold to the cost of 1,500 gold. Landry's Torment, 100 gold more, but brings up the ability power to 80. Huge change.
see,
That's
that's
extremely efficient.
huge, hugely efficient.
Yeah, it's like
100 gold for 30
yeah.
AP.
So this item I think just became the go-to
That's
Magic Pen item.
definitely gonna be your fourth or fifth item.
Yeah, you know,
Sure.
because if you go down to the voice staff change, not only did they make it more expensive, they only gave it 10 ability power without changing much of anything. So definitely, I think we can see Landry's Torment becoming more of a staple in builds. You agree with me, Tim?
So what is it? Why does it say 70 ability power to 80?
Uh,
It says 50 to 80.
you mean for void staff?
No, the void staff, because the void staff
Oh.
right now gives you 80.
Maybe either it's a tooltip.
No, voice staff only give you
No, it
70,
gives you
dude.
70 and 40% magic pen.
Yeah.
Gives you 40%? I thought it
Yeah.
give you 35.
I'll look them up right now. So Leandries currently gives you 50 ability power, 300 health.
Yeah,
That's
35, which is
that's
70.
that's this is a cheap item you can build in the jungle as well. I think AP jungles might be winning right now if you build these correct items.
You
Disarming though
may
gives you
see
300 health and 80 ability power now.
Yeah,
15% magic pen, and it gives you a dot that does it based off of
yeah, equal
the
to
current.
For
2%.
only
It's got
3k gold.
it's got percent health damage. It's got let me see. Gives me impaired units capped at 100 damage per second versus monsters. But the bonus is doubled against movement impaired units. super crazy synergy with Rylai's,
Dude,
I
with the
mean, yeah,
rallies, yeah.
it's always had a Rylai synergy.
and it gives you 15
But
magic
even
penetration, but
better
even
now
more
because
so
they
now.
buffed rallies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
even more AP scaling though.
yeah,
You can
and
do
then
4% of a dot.
yeah,
Your slowed rally target, which you can always slow now. It's like an Evelyn, you could build rallies into tournament.
right.
Like a really
That would be your.
expensive build,
I
but
think
you
that's
just
gonna
get
be
so
your
much damage.
third. Well, no, I think that it would definitely be third item.
So
And all these items give you health, so you're still getting tanky.
right,
Yeah,
And the health
exactly.
wise.
We're
And then you
void-
go like armor after that, you know?
Exactly.
Or whatever else.
So if you're going Rude Glaive into Rallies into Leandries and then finishing it off with 2 tank items, you've gotten HP from your 2 AP
Yes,
items.
you've gotten like, what is it, like 300, like 600.
Yeah,
you've
you've
gotten
got.
like good
yeah,
amount more health
yeah.
just from your your AP items.
Well, yeah, like you go Rune
Might
What's
Glaive,
see
the
that
sorry?
Elise
What's the
come
health
back.
from Rylai's again?
400, 300, 400, 400. So you go Rune Glaive, you go Rune
700
Glaive,
health.
400.
yeah, you go
700
For
bonus
both.
health.
yeah.
Two items
On top of normal AP stats right now. These are normal
and
AP
a
stats.
slow.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the AP stats are a lot better. So
Yeah,
see,
exactly.
so they're trying to get balance, so you can buy all these items.
I really do see some AP.
So they're
You know.
equal items, you know.
I agree.
You're in. I think
I
you'll see Elise. I
Yeah.
think you'll definitely see
This looks like
Elise.
it's perfect for Elise.
Definitely at least.
Perfect for Evelyn. You know.
And you'll see a lot of different AP items built in mid lane, rather than just the same core 3 items, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you won't see the same build path every single time. You might see a lot of different builds.
Well, going back,
What
I
do you
think
think-
Void Staff is now completely.
I think it'd still be decent. Like
What do you
it's
think
cheaper,
about-
so you can buy it sooner, so you have a little bit faster spike, depending on what champion you want.
Well, Void Staff is more expensive now.
What about like a Rune Glaive build?
But
on
not than Lysandre's, though. I mean,
What
Oh,
about what about a
Leandries.
tanky Rune Glaive build on a Kali in mid lane?
what'd you say?
A tanky mid game build on a Kali in mid lane. You go Rune Glaive,
Yeah.
Rylai's,
Yeah, it should've
Leandries.
just-
Would
Slow
would she still
down.
have the damage enough?
Probably,
well,
yeah.
because
Because she wants to get those stack resets.
The AP is good now.
Yeah, and then the Rune
Oh,
Glaive
no.
gives you that bonus damage anyways, right? So
The AP
That's
is
true.
comparable now to every other
Would that
item.
would that
Yeah.
Rune Glaive would the Rune Glaive proc her marks?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Her E doesn't anymore.
I
But-
think it's still just auto
I
attack.
forget how her
AP
marks are proc. I
AP
haven't played
Jax
Colleen so
incoming,
long.
guys.
AP Jax. Hey, Nasher's tooth got buffed.
Dude, AP Jax used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Rune Glaive Jax.
Yeah.
That actually would work.
I
but
do
Devourer
see.
would probably
I
be
do
better.
see these AP tanks or these AP assassins coming back because I see how Singed. These items work really well with Singed. These items work synergize really well with like a Kali and Evelyn. Yeah, there's why not? Why wouldn't they
Fizz.
come back? You know,
Yeah.
Fizz. That's
They're
very.
just bringing a lot more champions back into the meta and a
Yeah.
lot of different build paths.
I'm kind of excited for this patch now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, on to,
Nasher's tooth is
yep,
the
on to
next
Nashor
one.
Tooth. Yep. 80 gold increase, less attack speed, more ability power. So, you know,
But you
I
lose
don't really
10%
see that.
attack speed.
yeah.
I definitely see that helping Teemo. but that
But
would
that's a lot more gold
probably about
efficient,
it.
though.
Yeah, I
If
don't
it's
know.
80
I guess.
gold, 80 gold for 20 ability power.
That's a lot.
I guess it's a slight nerf to Kale, but I wonder if the changes to the extra attack.
See, I
damage,
disagree. I think it synergizes very well with Kale's new attack damage.
I was just about to say
But
that.
she
I
has
was
more
just about to
damage
say
on
that.
her E's. This gives her even more damage
Yeah,
to the
I
ability
wonder
power.
if these changes worked like hand in hand, you know, because next year
Yeah.
kind of like
And you take a lot of attack speed on Kale anyway, so I don't think 10% is going to be that noticeable.
Right.
You take away the attack speed.
basically you're just
from
gonna hit
the,
much harder, much
And
harder.
if you
Yeah.
went jungle with
And
Devour,
if you build
you
Devour,
have
you'll
even more
still
chance
have
of
the
that.
attack
Yeah.
speed.
God, I'm so ready for this patch.
I'm so ready for Jungle Kale right now.
Dude, jungle Kale is going to be
And
pretty
so we have
strong.
that one. Next
Alright,
we have Will the Ancients.
Yep. Spell vamp to 0%, but your abilities heal you for 15% of the damage dealt calculated before your opponent's resistances. So basically,
I see this being utilized on more champions.
exactly. That's what they're saying. They basically say before to make this work, you had to get all those other stats like spell pin and high AP. Before
Yeah,
you
so they
started
wanted to
feeling-
work a lot sooner.
Now it doesn't matter. So it has like 100% match spell penetration. So it doesn't heal as much, but you're gonna heal for more consistent numbers. And of course, it still scales with AP as well. So maybe you see champions avoid spell pin, and then I guess that you still get spell pin for your other
You're saying
champions,
either
but
you're out killing everything or you're just dying in 2
right.
seconds.
So this will give you a
Yeah.
little more. It'll give you sustain rather than, you know, God mode Vladimir when Tim plays it and never dies and tanks everything. You know.
Yeah, so you say in terms of the math, you just give it a roll a lot faster and you be able to spell vamp sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
spell vamp less, but you won't need as many items to get it rolling.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more effective on other champions rather than just ones that,
Right.
utilize the spell vamp.
Right.
And we have the next 2 items kind of go hand in hand. It's gonna be Morello's and
Exactly. So Morello's changed.
so
Total cost unchanged, but I guess we're trying something. They just changed the recipe. They both of them
They're
just changed the
building the build
recipe.
path is
Not a
different,
not
yeah.
a big change, just recipe
which
changes.
which is actually a good thing because you're getting more damage earlier because
Yeah, you
that
can
ability to.
you can buy it in exactly. So I guess you maybe can even start Amp Tone if you
So
wanted
they're
to.
trying to just make the purchasing for all these items easier.
Right, that's what they're trying to
So you
do.
can still build these AP items, these mana items earlier, and you still get like better
Yeah,
bracket,
Because
efficiency.
yeah.
mid's buying
Efficiency,
before
that's it
was
right there.
extremely
When you
clunky
come
though.
back with a codex and forbiddens what like 1200 gold?
Mhm.
1200
Yeah.
gold now you can come back with a needlessly.
Exactly.
Or you can get like an efficient relics too, the same way. So they're trying to make it so it's all efficient
Yeah.
Right.
at the 1200 gold mark. So they're trying to make the bank more easier. Like yeah, you notice that issue where you get Morellos or something, and then you have like a 1600 gold gap. You have to like wait out
Yep. And
before
that
you can
Exactly.
buy
and that
it.
was a big issue. 1250 is much easier to get than
There's a long
1600.
period of time before you get more gold, more
Yep.
items.
Right. That's pretty much the
So you can
patch
back a
notes.
lot less. Alright.
Oh, sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead. No,
that's
go
Whoa,
pretty
whoa,
ahead.
much
whoa! What
everything.
about Twisted Tree Line?
No, we don't play
Whoa.
3v3 nerd.
Hey. We do have the new skins coming out. We got Gentleman Nar. Don't forget about
That's
Gentleman
true.
Nar.
Gentleman
Got
Nard.
a, he's got a top hat, guys.
He
A
does
top
have a
hat.
top hat. It looks pretty good.
And a monocle.
I just won
And
16
chroma packs for
Yeah.
Bard
Master
and
Chef.
chroma
Arthas.
packs. Uh-oh.
No. We have to go
Chroma
back.
packs.
We
Yo,
gotta
I
go back
have
to
Grim
the
Reaper
Pimp
Karthus.
Cane.
Yo, I'm
The
gonna
Pimp
build
Cane.
blue Karthus.
Blue
Blue
Karthus,
Karthus.
guys.
Dude.
Maybe Karthus come back too,
That
guys.
red card looks pretty good.
I don't know, Caleb. If Nar gets to throw his Pimp Cane, I might have to main Nar.
I don't understand why
Hey.
they don't come out with a chroma pack for Star Guardian look, so you can be all in the Sailor Moon whatever characters.
Down the road, dude. Stop giving them ideas. They need to pay you for that. Alright.
That's the whole patch.
Those are the patches. Let's move on to the meta. So we're just going to go lane by lane, discuss some champions we like, how we think the changes will affect the lane, and, what's your role in the current solo queue. Okay, we'll start with top. Tim, as our resident top laner, how about you go ahead and tell us some of your favorite champions that you see are working the best right now?
My favorite champions? Well, the champions I've played the most in solo queue are Akram, Vladimir. What else have I played? Shen a lot recently. Shen's really strong.
Have you tried out Nautilus or Fizz?
Yeah, I have played a few games with Nautilus recently, and he's pretty strong. I haven't tried out Fizz yet, but I've seen him do well.
So, of course, you take teleport, right? And there's no really situations where you're not, right?
And generally, you just take teleport. Like, you're taking... The only champion really take Ignite on is Hecarim because you don't need the flash.
Right. Now...
I take.
Oh, go ahead, Gabe.
I usually take Teleport Smite on. I've been playing a lot of top lane Fizz,
yeah.
and I build Runeglaive Fizz.
Okay, that's perfect. That's a good... I was going to say, how do you think these new items are going to affect it? You think you're going to see a lot more AP champions up there? Like we're talking about, the Singed, the Fizz?
I mean, they buffed the AP ratio on Runeglaive itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it gives CDR. It's like, it's good. And Fizz has this Playful Trickster, so...
Okay. So, yeah, definitely. What champions do you think we're going to be seeing there after this patch? See some Singed? See some...
Yeah,
I don't know.
Singed.
Do you think we'll see Elise?
I think
I've already seen a little bit of Elise top lane. She's
Okay.
decent. So maybe
I think you'll be seeing Elise jungle.
Okay. Yeah, I really think these AP changes are just gonna
More Evelyn than we've been seeing. I believe.
not in top lane, but I
No,
feel
in
you.
jungle.
Maybe you won't see as much Nautilus. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. All right, let's move on to mid. I feel like mid's probably gonna be shaken up a little bit here. Right now, I'm we're seeing a lot of Ezra, Uzier, Victor, Cho. I think you guys
Yeah.
said we're seeing some Twisted Fate too. I
A little bit
definitely,
of Vladimir,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, I definitely think Kale might have a little bit of it, at least a tryout period. Everyone gets hyped about the patch. You think she's here to stay?
I still think she'd be stronger in the jungle role, but
Really?
she
Yeah.
could be pretty decent in mid too.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of these changes, are AP items, but it looks like they're really focused around the more tanky AP jungles.
Yeah.
I could
I
make
think
Kale like somewhat tanky too, you know.
Yeah, you could.
I think you're gonna get like a reintroduction of like more not so much heavy CC, but more like positioning control, like mid laners like Swain or the ones that benefit huge from like the new cheap AP, cheap health items like
Yeah,
Rod
sure,
and stuff.
sure, definitely. I'm looking through the champion list now. I don't really see anyone's that
Probably
aren't being
Timo,
played.
you know, a lot of Timo mid lane.
Yeah, right.
Emo.
Poppy mid lane,
Yeah,
AP
Poppy
Who
Poppy
else?
mid
too.
lane.
Channel your inner high, right?
Yeah, the Timo high man.
Tanky LeBlanc incoming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rylai Kog'Maw.
It's, I don't know,
They
that's
all
pretty
sound
interesting.
terrible.
Maybe you see Oriana that built like Rod of Ages and stuff.
Hey, you think Kinnan? Go Will the Ancients Kinnan? Rip. I feel like it's a
Yeah, that could
terrible
be
build.
decent. That could be decent.
Think
That
so?
could be decent. I
Rylai.
think Mordekaiser. I
I
think
don't know.
Mordekaiser is gonna come back big time.
That's true. I think Mordekaiser does have a place, especially with the Will.
Maybe it's maybe more top lane.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Um. How about the jungle? I think we've already expressed what we're thinking in the jungle, but I'm thinking a huge meta
AP
change.
damage, AD attack speed assassins.
Yeah.
Like
I
Xin Zhao, you know.
I mean, even now,
Kale.
what tanks are being played? Gragas, really? Rek'Sai kind of like a half tank. I still think Rek'Sai could be work if it changed to an assassin meta, but
Yeah, Rek'Sai would still be decent. Maybe you see Rengar.
yeah, yeah. I don't see why not. Any champion that has pretty good clear early, and then you can just transition to just
It'd probably be different for like the pro scene, but for like solo queue and stuff,
yeah,
and a lot more Yi.
right. Yeah, Udyr, Yi, all these champions that are work off auto attacks and attack speed, and definitely these AP champions like the Elises and the
What about
Evelyns.
what about Jarvan?
Jarvan, I think Jarvan can be played definitely.
I mean, you've seen him some like
Yeah,
Santorin and stuff are playing
yeah,
him.
Santorna's pulling him out. That's right. Or you can pull up Keen and play him in the mid lane.
Maybe you see Warwick and solo queue too.
Now I skipped over Runeglaive Ezreal. How many other champions are gonna be pulling Runeglaive out in the mid lane?
I don't know. Maybe you'll see that AP Tristana mid lane come back.
You see that Fizz, you know.
Yeah, no,
I see
definitely.
Fizz coming back.
My
Yeah.
follow-up question: how long till there's 5 smites on one team? How long, guys?
Season 7 is what Meteos predict.
Season 7?
Master Race Smite is what he said.
Master Race Smite. Of course he does. He's a jungle. No, I don't know. Still feels kind of weird seeing smites in anywhere but the jungle. But I guess it kind
I
of
don't really like it as much, but it's
adds a
not a
little
bad
bit of like a
thing.
diversity, right? I guess a little bit of
A little flavor.
And
You
China,
could like try to you could take a jungler for. Well, actually, you couldn't really do that.
China's
could you?
ruining the game.
You're
Hey!
jungling.
Swain.
Maybe
I,
like if you Swain, yeah.
I think these are pretty big buffs to Swain. Swain was already pretty good solo queue, right? You think?
I think Swain's gonna be huge, man.
Yeah.
They made they made core damage for him cheaper. They made core items for him like a lot more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Tim, I know you like Zach. You think these changes are going to be a big deal for Zach? You think he can
I was
build?
almost gonna say that Zach could potentially be played in top lane now with the buffs like the Sanders Storm and stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
See, the only issue with Zach, and like I was listening to Alvin stream, the other day. They saying the issue with Zach is they changed it so his blobs, you
Uh-huh.
heal with, they made it so they'd spawn like in between you and the enemy, so it's like easier for the enemy to
Oh, it's like
walk
kinda-
over them.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like bad, so they kind of like pretty much just go on the enemy, so it's hard to pick them up. But with the buffs, like the items that he normally built, he could have resurgence in the top lane.
Okay.
I think he's pretty decent right now in the jungle, so it could only make him stronger, right?
Do you think about?
Yeah.
You think an AP Malphite could be good, or you think that's stretching it?
When hasn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty OP right now, so I potentially see him get stronger.
Now, how about Galio? You think you can pull out some?
I think
Galio
that
top
Galio
lanes?
was already getting stronger. They did a big buff to him like last patch.
Okay.
So this could, I mean, only make him stronger too, right?
Right, I guess so. I mean, these buffs are pretty good. I like him. Um, now,
I think he'd be more of like a counter pick though, like
okay,
Yeah,
a
more
counter
of a
to.
counter pick to like a heavy AD jungler if you see it come out like a Master Yi or an Udi are coming out.
right, okay.
But who knows? Maybe he'll be just a common pick, you know?
Now, I'm a ADC main, and unfortunately, I feel like the least amount of changes were directed towards me and my supports. Do you see any changes from these patches? You think, I know Vayne is starting to be played a lot, but if these changes come through, I don't really see a place for Vayne. Maybe we will see more Graves, more mid lane focused champions. Graves, um,
Maybe you'll see less.
maybe Misfortune will be played a little bit. Back to the Lucians.
As far as support, maybe you'll see like less righteous glories and more coins or something.
True, yeah. They
But as
could,
far as
with all the
I
AP
don't know,
damage, maybe we'll see more Banner of Commands. You know, that
I
would
do
be
think
a
Banner
nice,
Command's strong right now. I
yeah.
built on Shen
That
top lane.
that would be a nice adjustment to the support build.
I actually saw Heimerdinger build it mid lane.
Really,
Yeah,
I like the item. I think it was really smart to make it
it's a
build off
pretty
the
strong
Aegis.
item. Yeah, they buffed it a lot,
Yeah,
and with the nerf of all the AP on the items, it'll be pretty comparable. You know.
yeah, no, absolutely. Kale support's coming, dude.
Yeah.
I see it.
Kale support coming back.
Hail
I
support.
see it.
Hey, Ben. He's got that raw AP damage coming through now. All right.
Better
Yeah,
Yeah,
trading.
boss.
I
Yeah,
think they
better
overall just
trading.
made Kale's trading just better.
yeah.
Like he had a pretty rough early to mid transition, so they just like improved that, give him
Right.
Yeah,
more
with
damage.
making needlessly cheaper. Yeah, that definitely
Well,
is gonna improve kills mid game. I feel like
Yeah.
that's where he's weakest. Really strong early, really strong late, but mid game,
Well, listen to this. Back to the jungles. I just thought of this. Back to the jungles with the changes to Devour. These high auto attack champions are good at taking early dragons. We might see more fights around there because you get a big bonus, like
Yeah, a lot more
five,
like early game fights,
five,
early game team comps.
yeah, 5 points on the takedown for an early dragon. You get two of those by like 15 minutes. You're stacking your
And
item.
scholars too, like you
Yeah,
get what, two for that or
exactly.
something?
Yeah, you control the river and control those objectives. You're getting a lot of stacks early, pretty fast. Like there's a route I take with Yi where as soon as I hit level 3, I go to the Scuddler, ding level 4, and I solo dragon. Well, with a Devour, that's an incredible amount of stacks. That's like what? I'll be at like 10 or 11
yeah.
stacks, before I'm level 5. That puts me way ahead of the enemy jungler. So I
Well, now
can.
you're seeing mid lane and top lane take smite too, so you can get a really early dragon with three
Right.
smites.
Yeah. It might make sense to try to take that dragon as early as
Like
possible.
taking multiple smites and just using that together to take a really early dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, and getting that dragon stacked up, good. There's no harm in that for sure.
Well,
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. You guys have anything you want to talk about before we close it?
No, that's pretty much it. Sounds
Rocket
good, man.
support, dude. Rocket support might come back.
Baraka,
Soraka support.
yeah.
That's right, with the spirit visage, dude. Back to Soraka mid. They're just gonna give her some more damage, and boom.
Oh man, I'm ready for Soraka Sona support to come
And
back. I
Soraka mid
love
won't work
that.
anymore,
I
just the way
hate.
they changed it.
Oh my god, I hate Sona. Sona, I can't. She needs to just
I
stay
love it.
wherever she is, dude. I
Yeah,
don't-
with a lot more healing, that you might really see Soraka and Sona come back.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a couple spirit visages on a team, I can see it be built jungle and top. Soraka would give a lot of sustain to that team right there. And she does bring control.
Yeah.
You know. All right. Anyways, I feel like that's the end of this podcast, episode 1. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe, like, comment. Let me know how you feel. There will be a email in the description. Send me any questions. We'll have a little section at the beginning once we start getting questions. This is Caleb, and thanks for listening.